Hi, thank you for joining us for the video on the UK student visa process for our London Scholars students coming to London in 2024 to 2025. We're really excited to have you, and we hope that this video is a helpful guide for you to prepare for the CAS and visa process in order to come to London. So, we're going to be talking about the UK student visa and CAS process. So what is a CAS? Once you've paid your deposit to Northeastern University, you will need to obtain a confirmation of acceptance for studies, CAS, in order to apply for your student visa to study the London Scholars Programme. You'll be required to show documentation to the visa compliance team, which is based at NU London, which will meet the requirements of the UK Visas and Immigration. This is a government department as part of the UK Home Office. You'll be providing the documents via our CAS Shield system. You'll be sent an invitation to your Northeastern email address. Once you've provided all the required documents, the visa compliance team will issue you with a CAS and provide you with support throughout the visa process. When you complete your UK student visa online, you will complete an application form and you must provide your CAS number and use the information which is provided in your CAS statement. You will not be able to apply for your UK student visa until you have obtained a CAS from the NU London Visa Compliance Team. Here on the right is an example of a CAS statement. Your CAS statement will include your name, nationality, date of birth, and passport number. It will also include the title, level, and dates of your course, the tuition fees for your course, and any tuition fees that you have already paid to NU. You can see this at the money section at the bottom of the statement. It will also include the qualification that NU has used to assess whether you have qualified to study your course. These must be final. You will not be able to obtain a CAS until you have completed your qualification. For example, we cannot issue a CAS until you have completed your high school diploma. Please make sure you do not make a student visa application with the UKVI before you receive your CAS from NU London. If you do so, your UK student visa application will be refused and may impact any UK visa applications in the future. Your CAS can only be used for one visa application. If you have applied for a visa and it has been refused, you must apply to the visa compliance team for another CAS. So if you have a look at the statement on the right, this is the information you will use to make your application. If you believe any of the information on your CAS statement to be incorrect, you must contact the visa team immediately and we will check it to make sure it can be updated. So just some important information about the CAS and student visa process. If you have a British or Irish valid passport, for example, you might be a British national, an Irish national, or have one of these passports as a dual national, you do not require a visa. You will have to enter the UK with either your British or Irish passport, but you will not require a visa to study on the London Scholars Programme. All other nationalities require a UK student visa and must complete the CAS process with NU London in order to apply for their visa. Please contact the visa team immediately if you do have a valid British or Irish passport, as you will not have to go through this process. The visa compliance team does not issue your student visa. The UKVI, the UK government department, will be the people issuing you your visa. What the visa compliance team will do is issue your CAS in order to apply for your visa and support you throughout the process. You should begin the process as early as possible after you receive an invite to CAS Shield to ensure that you can get your visa in time to start the course. You should prioritize your student visa application over the summer. If you do have any travel plans, you should ensure that you engage in the process early enough to make arrangements around your plans. Do not travel to London until you have your visa. You will not be able to enroll in the London Scholars Programme without the correct visa. Here are some key dates and a timeline. So between May and June, this will be the CAS document preparation time. So this is when you attend webinars, read the visa web pages, and begin uploading documents to your CAS Shield account. The 5th of July is the CAS document deadline, except A-level students. So students studying the A-level. This is the deadline that you must have provided all of your documents on CAS Shield and be ready to apply for your student visa. The 5th of July is a key date for us to ensure that we have enough time to issue you with your CAS and you have enough time to apply for your visa. The 2nd of August is the CAS issuance deadline. This is the last date we will issue a CAS to ensure you have enough time to apply for your visa before the start of the course. A-level students will have separate deadlines. The 16th of July is the CAS document deadline for A-level students, apart from your qualifications, as we know that a results day is not until mid-August. The 16th of August is the CAS document deadline to ensure that you provide your qualification and ensure that we can issue your CAS immediately so you can apply for your student visa. Here is a quick introduction into the visa compliance team. You will have your own assigned visa compliance officer who will help you throughout the process. We will run webinar Q&A sessions, so after you've watched this video, you'll be able to come to a webinar and submit your questions for our discussion and provide you as detailed answers as possible. We will provide you with a visa documents explained leaflet, which will go into the documents in further detail. We also have visa web pages on NU London's website to provide you with further information. When you do get your CAS, you will get your CAS alongside a full visa application guide and biometric guide, which we strongly suggest you use in order to complete your visa process. Documents you will need to provide to obtain a CAS. So here is a quick overview of the documents that you'll need. You'll need a valid passport. The passport must be valid at the time you are entering the UK. It does not have to be valid for a certain amount of time after you enter, but it must be valid for when you're entering the UK. You'll need your final high school qualification, any English language if required, and we'll go into that in further detail shortly. Your financial documentation, which will need to meet certain requirements. A TB test certificate if required, and translation of any documents if they are not entirely in English. We're now going to cover these into more of a deep dive. Your passport. Your passport must be valid at the time of your planned entry to the UK. The UK does not require that a passport is valid for any particular period of time after the arrival in the UK, but it must be valid when you make your application and at the time of your enrolment at NU London. If you're not sure whether you should apply for a renewal, please contact your visa team, your visa compliance officer first, and they will help advise you. You will be able to apply for a renewal if your passport is expiring during the London Scholars Programme from within the UK. You can apply for a UK student visa in your home country, so your country of nationality. You cannot apply for a student visa in another country unless you have a residence permit or permanent visa for that country. If you are applying for a visa in a country other than the country of your nationality, you must also show that you have the right to reside in that country. If you're a dual national and have 2 valid passports, you can apply in either country. You cannot apply in a country that you are just visiting. For example, if you are applying for a student visa with your Brazilian passport in Canada, you must also provide proof that you have the right to reside in Canada. For example, a proof of permanent residence or a Canadian passport. If you're unsure about this, please contact the visa team. Your qualification. You'll need to provide a copy of your final high school transcript or diploma. We will not require both. but it must show that you have completed the program or graduated. Provisional results and transcripts are not acceptable for CAS and visa purposes. So once you have your invitation to CAS Shield, you can begin uploading the documents, but you may have to wait until your final transcript or diploma has been released to you before you can obtain the CAS. Your certificate or transcript must clearly show all of the following information: your name, the title of the award or course, the date of the award, the name of the academic/awarding institution. If your transcript is electronic, you will need your school to send us a verified copy of your transcript. They can send it to visa@nulondon.ac.uk. If your transcript or diploma is paper copy, so if it's originally provided as a physical certificate or a physical transcript, you must bring this to enrollment in London. Remember to pack this in your suitcase. It has to be verified in person by the London team. Please ensure you bring it with you for enrollment. English language. If you hold a passport from one of the below countries, you do not need to provide an English language test as part of your visa application. Please see the list below. All other nationalities will need to provide an official English language test showing that you have the required level of English to complete your program of study. Your test scores must be equivalent to a CEFR level B2. Below is a list of accepted English language tests. Please contact the visa team if you're unsure about which test you need to take. Please note, English language testing is based on the passport that you're using to apply for your visa. So even if you have a US passport, if you're applying with your Spanish passport and your US passport is your second nationality and you've decided not to apply with that passport, you will have to show proof of English language. The UKVI bases this on nationality rather than if you have multiple passports, for example. Tuberculosis test. Some students are required to take a TB test as part of their visa application. If you are living in a certain country and making an application to come to the UK, you must present a valid medical certificate confirming that you have been tested for TB. Please be aware that you will need to provide a TB test from a UKVI approved testing clinic. If you go on gov.uk and look at acceptable TB testing clinics, there will be a list for every country which requires TB testing. If you're unsure about this, please contact the visa team. Translation of documents. If you are providing any documentation that is not entirely in English, you will also need to provide a full official translation of the documentation. The translation must meet all of the following UKVI requirements, and if it does not meet these requirements, it will not be accepted for CAS purposes. It must be made by a professional translator or translation company and include confirmation from the translator that it is an accurate translation of the original document. It must include the date of the translation and the translator's full name and signature, or the full name and signature of an authorized official of the translation company, and it must include their contact details. If you're unsure about this, again, please contact us. Now we're going to discuss financial requirements. You must have enough money to support yourself while you're studying at NU London. We're going to have a deep dive into the financial documentation that you require. How much money will I need to show? You must have enough money in your bank account to show that you can cover both living expenses and tuition fees. The full amount needs to be held in your bank account for at least 28 consecutive days. It cannot fall below the required amount, even just for one day during this period. The UKVI mandated living cost is £12,006. The calculation for the required amount is seen on the screen here. £12,006 plus the first year of your tuition fee minus any money you have already paid towards your tuition. This will give you the final required amount you are required to show in your account. If you need to use a currency converter, please use Awanda. This is the UKVI approved currency converter and the converter that they will use when reviewing your application. Here is an example of how much money you'll need to show. So if the UKVI living cost is £12,006, and for example, your tuition fees converted to £23,000, the total you would be required to show is £35,006. However, if you had already paid a £3,000 deposit, this would take your total required amount down to £32,006. This is the amount that would need to be held for a minimum of 28 consecutive days. Here are some key financial documents for UKVI. You may be showing a personal bank statement or letter, a Sallie Mae loan letter, or a Northeastern grant or scholarship letter. This can only be deducted from your tuition fees and cannot be used towards the UKVI living cost. Your bank statement. Your bank statement of a personal account should contain your name as per your passport or your parents' or legal guardian's name. You cannot use anybody else's bank account to prove your financial requirement. The only people that you can use for your application is your own personal account or one of your parents' personal accounts. You cannot use business accounts or trust accounts. Below is a list of the things that must be visible on your bank statement. We must be able to see the name, the account number, and print date or period date. We will also need the balance column, the name, address, and logo of the financial institution, and we must be able to see that you have the required amount for a consecutive 28-day period. We must be able to see the opening and closing balance and see that the closing balance is not older than 31 days from the date you are planning to submit your visa application. For example, you may upload a bank statement that is dated within the last 31 days. If by the time you apply for your visa, this bank statement is older than 31 days, you will need to provide a new statement to the team to ensure that your bank statement is valid for the application. If you are using multiple bank accounts, the statements must cover the same dates and cannot cover different periods. A bank letter. Letters from your bank confirming the funds have been held in a personal account for a consecutive 28-day period, ending no more than 31 days before the date of your application, can be acceptable. Your letter from a bank or building society must show the following details. It must show your name as per your passport and/or your parents' or legal guardian's name, the account number, the date of the letter, the financial institution's name and logo, and it must confirm that you can access the funds at any time and must be able to show that there is enough money in the account to cover your course fees and living costs. It must also confirm the funds have been held for a minimum of 28 consecutive days. Your funds must be able to be withdrawn at any time. This means there cannot be a notice period on your funds. We will accept formal bank statements or letters issued by the bank. You cannot use personal or business loans held in the name of your parent or legal guardian as evidence of money being held by you. Loans are not accepted. In addition, business and trust accounts are not acceptable for CAS and visa purposes. This is because they are not accepted by the UKVI. Here is an example of a bank statement. You can see that the name that's covered must be a student or parent's name. All information must be visible and you cannot block out any information on the statement. Trust and business accounts are not accepted. And you must send all pages of your bank account. For example, on this statement, you can see that this is page 1 of 4. You must upload all 4 pages of the statement. Here we can clearly see the beginning balance, the ending balance. And if we had all 4 pages, we should be able to see the opening and closing balance. The opening and closing date, and see all the transactions that have taken place in the period. This will help us determine whether your statement will meet the UKVI's requirements and be accepted for visa purposes. Here is another example of a bank statement. We use the bank statement's transactions to see how we can determine the 28-day period. Here we would count back from the closing balance date and check whether the money has been maintained for 28 consecutive days. This visual shows you how we determine whether the bank statement meets requirements. In the middle here, we have the statement closing date. Behind this, with the arrow going backwards, these are the 28 consecutive days that the minimum requirement must be held. So we work backwards from the statement closing date to see whether the minimum amount that is required to show has indeed been held for the 28 days before the statement closing date. The 31 days after the statement closing date show that you must make the visa application within the 31 consecutive days. This is why it's important, if you do upload a bank statement, you may be required to upload an additional statement if it then expires. Please ensure you maintain the minimum amount required in your bank account throughout the entire process to make sure that any future bank statements will be valid and will not drop below the required amount in this period. Extra documentation you may need for your finances. If you are using a parent's or legal guardian's bank account, you will be required to submit further documents. If the account is in your own name, you will not be required to show these extra documents. You will have to show a confirmation letter from your parent or legal guardian confirming that they have given them their permission for you to use their money. The letter must confirm the relationship between you and your parent/legal guardian and that they have given their consent to you using their funds to study in the UK. Here is an example of this type of letter. This letter must be an original document with an original signature. Please see the example below. You will need to upload this to CAS Shield. The student must provide evidence of their relationship with their parents or legal guardians who have provided consent in support of their application. This can be in the form of a copy of one of the following documents: an official birth certificate that shows the names of the applicant's parents, a certificate of adoption that shows the name of the applicant's parents or legal guardian, or a court or government issued document naming the applicant's legal guardian or establishing the sole responsibility of one parent. Equivalent documents will not always be formatted in the same way. There is some regional variation in how these documents are presented. Provided the document contains the required information and is in English or is accompanied by a verified translation, the document can be accepted. Remember, if your proof of relationship documents and bank statement/letter are not entirely in English, it will need to be translated by an official translator, and it must meet all of the following UKVI requirements to be accepted for the CAS and visa process. You can now watch our How to Use CAS Shield video and return here once you have your CAS. Or you can continue watching for the information for what you'll have to do after you receive your CAS from NU London. Next steps: making your online visa application. You will receive your CAS via email once all your documents have been approved by the NU London team. Your visa compliance officer will communicate to you when your CAS is being prepared. Once it's sent to you, it will be sent to your Northeastern email address titled Important Your CAS Statement. Your email will include lots of information about what documents you should provide, so please read it very carefully. In addition to this, attached to the email, you will find your CAS statement, which will be password protected with your passport number, a visa application guide, which you will need to use to complete your online visa application, and a biometrics appointment guide. You will need to use this to book and complete your biometrics appointment. The guides are specifically tailored to where you're making your application from in the world. You must check that all of the information on your CAS statement is correct. If you believe there is an error on your CAS statement, for example, your date of birth is incorrect, your nationality or tuition fee, please contact your assigned visa compliance officer and wait for an updated CAS statement if there is indeed an error. You will need to use all of the information on your CAS statement in your online application. We must be sure we have provided the UKVI with the same information that you will provide to the UKVI, so picking up errors is crucial. It's also important that you let us know if there's any changes since we've issued the CAS. For example, if you've made a further deposit to Northeastern University, as we must update this. And if you've written this on the application and we have not provided this information at CAS issuance, this could cause problems in your CAS and visa application. The next step is to make your online visa application. You will find the link to the online visa application attached in the guide attached to your CAS statement email. Please take your time going through the visa application form and ensure that you answer all the questions accurately and as referenced to in the guide. If you are unsure how to answer a question and the guide is unclear or may not have the answer, please contact your assigned visa compliance officer. You can save your online application and continue it at a later time. It's best to contact the visa team if you're unsure, rather than make a mistake on the application. You must use the information as stated in your CAS statement. Please copy and paste the information from your CAS statement to ensure the UKVI have been given the same information that we have provided to them beforehand. This will also avoid errors in spelling or perhaps a mistake in the CAS number. The next step will be to pay the visa application fee and the immigration health surcharge. Both of these fees are mandatory fees as part of your visa application. The application fee is to submit your application, and the immigration health surcharge is a fee which allows you to access the National Health Service for the duration of your visa in the UK. Unfortunately, even if you have health insurance, you are required to pay the immigration health surcharge as part of your application. For the London Scholars Programme, you will have to pay a £490 visa application fee and £776 immigration health surcharge. Please note these fees could go up at any time, and these are current as of the 4th of April. Therefore, the current total visa application fees are £1,266. This does not include any fees related to your biometrics appointment or priority visa applications, which we'll talk about shortly. The next step is to book your biometrics appointment. Now, this step is for non-EU nationals only. We will talk about the route for EU nationals shortly. But for example, if you have a US passport or a passport which is outside of the EU, you will need to book your biometrics appointment. You'll be prompted to choose a biometric service provider. Please ensure you read the biometrics guide before choosing your provider. Depending where you are in the world, you'll most likely use VFS Global, USCIS, or TLS Contact, depending on where you're applying. Which service do you choose? So a standard visa application service takes 3 to 4 weeks average processing time, which can increase during peak time periods. The priority service does significantly reduce the waiting time, usually to around 5 working days, but it does come at a higher cost. These processing times will provide you with a visa decision from the date of your submitted biometrics. However, the actual time may vary depending on the capacity of the UKVI at the time of processing. You will need to pay for any extra services you select, for example, a priority visa service. Please read what is included in the different services available in your location and select the service most suitable for your circumstances. The service time provided is for your reference only, and the actual processing time for each service may vary. Please note, if you are planning a holiday before beginning your studies, please consider choosing a priority service, as you will not have access to your passport until a decision has been made on your visa application and your passport has been sent back to you. You can contact your visa compliance officer about this further. Step 4. You must only provide the documents listed on your UKVI documents checklist. Do not provide any additional documents which are not on your checklist. The CAS statement email will tell you what documents you will likely be asked to provide, but there may be different documents listed on your UKVI checklist. You will receive this checklist once you've submitted your application, and it's really important you pay attention to the documents that are listed on it. If there's anything on your checklist that was not listed as a document in the CAS statement email, please contact your assigned visa compliance officer before submitting your documents. Again, if you're unsure which documents to provide, please contact your visa compliance officer before submitting your documents. Please note that if you provide unnecessary documentation, documents that are not listed on your checklist, this may delay your visa application. The example on the right shows that this student has only been asked to provide their passport as a required document. Therefore, the applicant at this time should only submit their passport with the application in this example. Step 5, attending your biometrics appointment. A side note here is that biometric service providers are not involved in decision-making for UK visas. They are permitted by the UK government to process your biometric information in order for the UKVI to make a decision and process your visa. Your biometric service provider will send you information regarding your appointment. Please read the instructions very carefully and make sure you prepare everything you need for your appointment. Ensure that you're on time for your appointment and listen to the instructions carefully. You must ensure you listen to what will happen to your passport and other documents if required after the appointment. For most students applying in the US, you will need to mail your passport to the processing office with a UPS return label. Other students may be able to hand over their passport for processing at the appointment. Please ensure you do not leave your appointment without passport mailing instructions. If you do not mail your passport within the time frame provided, which is usually 5 days, your application may be rejected. Step number 4, Completing your biometrics. This is for EU nationals only. Students using an EU passport will usually be able to complete their biometrics using the UKVI app. You will not need to attend a physical appointment if you have the ability to use the app. In the Biometrics app guide attached to your CAS statement email, you will see the requirements in order to use the app. You will still have the option to pay for a priority visa service, and if you have travel plans or are applying for your visa in August, we would strongly recommend that you pay and choose a priority visa service. If you cannot use the app, please contact us for information on how to book an in-person biometrics appointment. You'll now need to update CAS Shield. Please update your enrollment status when you've received your CAS and made your application. Please keep this section updated as you make your application and attend your biometrics appointment, so we're aware of the dates and how long your visa processing is taking. Once you receive your entry clearance vignette or entry clearance email and visa decision letter, you'll need to update the pre-departure and travel section. Please upload your flight tickets when you have booked your flight to the UK, as we will require this as part of your documentation to enroll. Important, please check your emails regularly. You must check your emails during the visa processing period for anything from the UKVI/Home Office. They may contact you asking for further information or documentation. If you receive an email from the UKVI or Home Office, please forward it to the visa compliance team immediately, and we will advise you. Do not provide further documentation without speaking to the visa compliance team first. Your application may be delayed if you provide the wrong information. If you do not check your emails and miss a request for further documentation, your application may be rejected. Please check your junk or spam folders regularly. Step 7, receiving your UK student visa decision. This again is for non-EU nationals. If you mailed your passport, you can track its return with your shipping provider. If you had the option to hand your passport at your biometrics appointment, you will receive a notification when it's ready for collection. If your visa is approved, you will receive a decision letter from the Home Office via email, and your passport will have a UK entry clearance sticker inside it, as seen on the right. Please note, this will only be valid for 90 days. The purpose of the entry clearance is to allow you to enter the UK, and you will then receive your visa card at enrollment. Please pay attention to the valid from date on your entry clearance, which you will find around here. You can only enter the UK within your valid from date. If you enter before this, you'll be required to leave the UK and re-enter, as you will not be on your student visa and will be on the incorrect visa permission. If any of the information about you or you believe this is not valid for 90 days, or the valid from date is too late for you to arrive in the UK, please contact the visa compliance team or your visa compliance officer immediately. Now for EU nationals only, if you were an EU national who used the UKVI app to complete your biometrics, you'll receive an email entry clearance, which confirms your application was successful. Please forward this email immediately to the visa compliance team once you receive it, as we require it for our records. You'll be able to see your valid from date, which is the date you're allowed to travel to the UK from. Do not enter the UK before your visa is valid, otherwise you'll be required to leave the UK and re-enter on the correct permission. On the right, you can see what the email looks like. Once your visa is valid, you can travel to London. We're really excited to have you in London and looking forward to working with you and supporting you through the CAS and visa process. You can email visa@nulondon.ac.uk if you have any questions regarding this video. Thank you very much for listening.